And that's the thing. Like, I wanted to caution the viewers because Jason and I know are of the same mindset. This is not something we want you to get used to become numb to. This is a very real thing that we are experiencing in the midst of a global pandemic. So please be aware of how this thing is shaping the schedule because it's a very real thing that you are experiencing each and every day. So take the precautions. Wear a mask.
Also, quickly, got to say this. Don't ever fault somebody for deciding that it's not safe to play. Right. These are still kids that are out there. They're not professionals. They're not getting paid to be out there. Any school and anybody today that went to social media to try and chime in on one side or the other on why this game should have been played, stop. At the end of the day, this is safety. I will never make a school apologize for deciding they're not comfortable with the COVID-19 situation that keeps them off the field.
So you're right. So let's talk some football then.
Let's get to it. Actual games going on. Indiana, Ohio State was the big one. First meeting between these two schools where they were both in the top 10 of the AP poll. And early on, it looked like one team belonged. You saw Justin Fields there. He was just getting rolling here. Spins around and then says, you know what? I got turbo. 9 yards, although it feels like he ran 30. Then a little lick into the end zone. Ohio State cooking 28-7. But Michael Penix Jr. gets it to Fry. Give me a big heaping helping of Fry Fogel. Ty Fry Fogel, that is. Big touchdown. Still 35-14. Ohio State fans feel good about it.
Did we decide that was a Scandinavian dish?
No, it's Thai. Fry Fogel. Oh. It's Fry Fogel, but it's, Thai. It's like pad Thai. It's sort of the same thing. This interception, all of a sudden, he's running it back. Indiana fans are happy, but whoop, got to keep the ball. So all of a sudden, it gets them to this spot here. Again, what do we need more of? Extra Fry Fogel. That's what we get. All of a sudden, we got this game. This game gets tight out of the gates. All of a sudden, we are looking at a close one. Fry Fogel, by the way, had a monster game. But this interception was key. 45-21 after this interception puts us in a situation where suddenly we feel like this game could be out of hand. But Indiana said, nah. Now, we're here to play. We belong in the top 10 of this conversation. And they show you again right here. Oh, beautiful play by who else? Fry Fogel gets a touchdown. It wasn't enough, though. Indiana comes away 7-point losers.
We'll check into the lemon booty game of the Big Ten. Northwestern Wisconsin up top. Graham Mertz was down early, but he finds Chimere DK for a 49-yard score to lock things up at 7. Then 1 minute and 2 seconds left in the first quarter there, and Northwestern goes back on top. They currently lead 17-7. Florida Vanderbilt rolling down in the SEC. First quarter is where we pick things up. Kyle Trask and them were down early, and then he found a wide receiver bare booty open for 6. 27 yards to Kadarius Toney to tie things up at 7. Beginning of the second quarter now. Vanderbilt still with the lead is where we head to next. 10-7 the score. Doesn't
even feel right when you say Vanderbilt with the lead.
Not used to hearing that turn of phrase, and I don't know how used to getting sacked Kyle Trask is this season. Dan Mullen also ripping him. I'm sure he's not used to having that happen very often. They would end up punting that possession. Less than a minute left in the second quarter. Trevon Grimes receives a 34-yard score from Kyle Trask to make it 17-10, Gators. For halftime, they opted out of the locker room trip, and out of the half, they were a brand new team. Kyle Trask scrambling, escapes pressure, rolls to his right, and finds 2 receivers, bare booty open.
Choose your own adventure. One of them's coming down with it.
Just a shorter for the 46-yard game, first down Gators, and then later in the drive, third and goal. Kenmore Gamble, the 2-yard score. Florida would take the lead and go on to win 38-17.
Let's get you a little more SEC action. Hey, update, Najee Harris hit good. This for a second looked like it might be a close game, and then Najee Harris said, nah, I'm still doing Derrick Henry-like things here. Look at this stiff arm at the end. He says, get off me, get off me. Gets the touchdown. Alabama takes the 21-3 lead. They were just getting going. They go up 28-3 on here as Mac Jones gets the touchdown pass, and that was just the beginning. It is 63-3 right now. That is not a misprint, and also not a surprise. 63-3, roll time. All right, next up we got some Pac-12 action. UCLA taking on Oregon. Look, we didn't expect a lot of defense in this one, but we were not disappointed in that sense. C.J. Verdell takes the handoff, hit hard by Bo Calvert, loses the football. Quantrez Knight recovers the ball, returns it the other way for a score. Touchdown UCLA ties the game up at 14 each. Chase Griffin gets hit here as he throws the ball. This is ugly when he gets hit. Oh, thump. And then he just says, whoop, I'll take that ball. I would like to see the end zone, good sire. Show me the furniture. And he gets all the way there.
Pick six to end the half.
That's a way to go out on the last play of the half. Puts Oregon up 24-17. Later on, Oregon with the ball at the UCLA 12. Tyler Shuck fakes the handoff, evades a rush, finds a wide open receiver in the end zone. 38-35 is your final in the always exciting Pac-12 so far this year. Big win there for Oregon.
This is the College Football Show presented by AT&T 5G. Treavor Scales, Jason Fitz with you. Live update as we are rolling along here. Wisconsin has dropped that game to Northwestern 17-7. Your final there. So we get a little screwy in the Big Ten, although Ohio State continues to set themselves apart from the rest of the conference.
I had a whole slew of like badger, mushroom things. Like now I can't use any of them.
That's
Wisconsin out of the conversation.
I mean, we'll find a way to work them in somehow, some way. You are Jason Fitz, so that's going to happen. We welcome in now Heather Dinich, senior college football writer for ESPN.com, and we are just 3 days away from the very first college football committee's rankings for the season. They only got 5 of them, and as we navigate this weird and awkward space, we recently had a news update that the Pac-12 will allow non-conference play, but we know that those don't come without certain criteria being met. Could you go into what exactly those criteria are?
Sure. Well, the first and the most important is that any non-conference opponent would have to comply with Pac-12 testing protocol. So there would have to be daily antigen testing, at least one PCR testing involved in that. They would have to go to the Pac-12 campus. So there are certainly some regulations that would have to be determined by Thursday in order to figure out that they could actually play the game. So the question is, who can actually fill all of those demands? Can anybody do that? And, you know, I reached out to BYU as soon as the Pac-12 news came out and said, hey, would you guys be willing to schedule a Pac-12 team? And a school spokesman wrote back and said that they are going to continue to look at their options. And yes, the Pac-12 would be included in that. So I think, you know, some further questions as to whether or not they could comply with the testing aspect of it are in order. But if they can do that, it would be huge for their resume and also very much needed.
Well, and with that being said, BYU, whenever we talk about BYU, Heather, we also talk about Zach Wilson, the quarterback. And I had the chance last night to be on the Heisman show here digitally, and we talked a little bit about this. But for anyone that doesn't know, you're a Heisman voter. And so we've been talking about the playoff committee constantly. How do they make decisions on who's good and bad with such limited work? How do you, as a Heisman voter, approach analyzing which players belong in the conversation with such a limited body of work?
Well, in a very similar way, honestly, to what the selection committee is doing with the teams, because it's going to be uneven. And that being said, the picture for the Heisman changed tonight drastically. I mean, when you look at what Justin Fields did against Indiana, 3 interceptions, all of which he said were his fault. He said the first one was the wrong read. The second one, he tried to throw it out of bounds. And the third one, he said, was his own mistake. He tried to force something that wasn't there. And when you take all of those things into account and you see Alabama's roster that has 3 Heisman-worthy people on it in Mac Jones, Najee Harris, and now Devontae Smith. I mean, and Trevor Lawrence is sitting on an airplane. So how does that all go together? He didn't even play again this weekend. All of those things have to be added in. And as I said yesterday on the Heisman show, the more opportunity these players and teams have, the more it changes the picture. That is what it all comes down to, is who did you beat? How did you look in those situations? What did you do for your team? And those are all very similar things that the selection committee will be watching as well when they're trying to figure out their rankings on Tuesday.
It is the season of subjectivity, to say the least. Heather Dinich joining us here on the College Football Show presented by AT&T 5G. And Heather, when it comes down to the semantics as to how the committee will meet for the 5 times that they have as of now to determine the final 4 teams, we saw that you tweeted out that Bill Hancock told you that we're asking, quote, we're asking players and coaches to travel every week. The least we can do is ask the selection committee members to travel, close quote. And my first inclination was these people are a part of the demographic that is most at risk for this disease. How exactly are they going to go about making this as safe as possible for those committee members to travel?
Well, they do have a sheet of protocol for the committee members. They will require them to be tested on Monday morning. Every Monday morning, they meet and they will get a rapid antigen test. And if it's positive, it will be followed up by a PCR test to confirm it. They will wait in their hotel rooms at the Gaylord Texan Resort. And if it's positive, confirmed by the PCR test, they have to quarantine per CDC guidelines for 14 days. So I'm trying to say this with a straight face because I've been to the Gaylord. And sign me up for 14 days there, guys. Trying not to make a joke of it, but in all seriousness, you're either at the Gaylord for 14 days if you're a committee member, or if you feel well enough and you can drive home. Somebody like former coach R.C. Slocum, who obviously lives in Texas, he could probably drive back. Joe Castiglione lives in Oklahoma. He could probably drive back. There have been 3 people who have already tested positive. Florida Athletic Director Scott Strickland, that was made public earlier. Bill Hancock has tested positive, and they have all said that they have recovered from it. And committee member Ken Hatfield, another former coach who's in that room. And inside the room, they have doubled their meeting space. They're all going to be at least 6 feet apart. Their snacks are all going to be individually wrapped. They're required to wear masks and not mingle with each other when they're out of the room. So there have been changes, and they believe they're in a productive bubble.
If there is a situation, God forbid, where a committee member doesn't feel comfortable moving on and being a part of the process because they have COVID, is there a plan to replace that committee member?
No, there's not a plan to replace them. There has never been a plan to replace a committee member who has fallen ill or become sick or can't be a part of it. And I've covered this thing, as you guys know, from the onset. I can remember in the very first year, Pat Hayden was in the hospital. There were some times when former committee member Mike Tranghisi was unable to go because he was sick. It's just never been, they've been down to 12 before. They've worked with 12. It's certainly possible. If somebody does have to join remotely or isn't comfortable, I would imagine that they could do that. And Bill Hancock, when we spoke, he didn't want to get into any hypotheticals about what the future of the meetings might hold in terms of trying to do this during the coronavirus pandemic, but he said that they will be ready to adjust if they need to.
Understanding that they may not want to get into hypotheticals, but it is a part of making sure that everybody has a plan, because that is the most necessary part in everybody's safety in this regard. But thank you so very much, Heather Dinich, for joining us here on the College Football Show.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Heather.
You can watch the very first college football playoff rankings revealed exclusively on ESPN this Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern. And then second screen, Fitz, Gojo, Christine Williamson for rankings reaction on all the platforms that you're watching us on right now.
All right, so Trevor, you were just talking about the need for contingency plans.
Yes.
This is an important conversation. Bill Hancock is the executive director of the College Football Playoff Committee. And he was asked specifically, there have been a lot of conversation about what would happen, God forbid, should a team that qualifies for the playoffs find themselves in a COVID situation, because it's not easy to figure out what to do. There have been some written pieces that allude to a fifth team, the fifth place team being moved in, or cancellation or postponement of games. So to that end, Bill Hancock was on Freddie and Fitzsimmons on ESPN Radio, and this is what he said very specifically when asked about these scenarios.
Well, we obviously would have felt terrible for every team that's been unable to participate. And we haven't decided what to do if a team can't play. That's what we're going to be continuing to talk about during December. So
it's
hang
not,
on.
So it's not. So it's not official. It's not, because the way I read it was, hey, if a team gets COVID and you can't play, then that team forfeits, and the team they were going to play is in the Natty. So that's not done yet. That's not in stone.
Nope, not in stone. That's what we're going to be talking about for the next few weeks. Not in stone.
Trevor, Bill Hancock is somebody I've had the opportunity to meet doing the mock committee. I've spent a little time with. He's a very smart man, and he's a very good man. He is also very calculated in what he says and what he doesn't say. And he just told you there that, no, nothing's set in stone. But he didn't say that it's not possible. And what's alarming to me is that the only thing we've learned from the College Football Committee is that they have no idea what the backup plan is. They're telling you we're not going to put a fifth team in. Well, that wouldn't be fair to everybody. But we're also not looking to postpone, and we're not going to cancel. We're not going to. So what the hell are you going to do? Like, they're giving you all the we're not going tos. But if realistically a situation like today where Clemson can't play against Florida State happens, we have no idea what the College Football Playoff Committee is going to do. And that, to me, is unacceptable from the group of people that should have contingencies for every possible plan.
Well, wholeheartedly agree, because what exactly is the issue with sharing a contingency plan if you do have one? You wouldn't want to sit on that type of information. All it shows is a lack of preparation if you aren't willing to actually share what would go down should something go awry.
I talked to Pollock about this, David Pollock, the other day, and Pollock said, well, the information we get is different every day. So what's the point of having a contingency plan when the information constantly changes? To that, I would argue it is your job. When your business is the college football playoff, when what you make your entire year's main moment is the college football playoff, it is your job, not your want. It is your obligation to have a contingency plan. And if the information changes tomorrow, then you spend the next day, all day, figuring out your next contingency plan. I don't think it's acceptable for the people that control the entire college football playoff to sit on their hands and say, well, we're going to spend all December figuring out what the heck you've been doing for the last 3 months. This isn't new. It drives me crazy that they're not figuring this out.
It's the exact same thing that they did with the offseason, they being everybody in college football. We are going to wait this thing out and assume that our militaristic mindset will carry us through the season without fail. And that is exactly where they ended up failing, because they ended up trying to guess the fact that they were going to be able to dictate the terms of how this thing spreads. And that's the biggest thing that the NBA removed from the equation. They said, we aren't going to try to dictate how this thing spreads. We're not going to allow it to spread without question. And so they put themselves in a bubble, and that has been the only way proven to actually facilitate a full-blown season and carry it out under the jurisdictions that you would like to.
29% of today's games. 29% of today's games did not happen. So don't tell me this isn't something the college football playoff should be looking at. In the meantime, we should look at actual games that took place today.
For sure. And it really does boil down to the Wisconsin-Northwestern game that we should give you an update on, and it's nothing nice for the Badger fans that are here. Graham Mertz, just not a great day. He was under duress in large part, but then he was also making what would be considered freshman mistakes, right? Like there's things that weren't going his way, sailing footballs over the middle. 3 turnovers is what we're going to show you here for the Badger offense. None of them sort of equate to what exactly went down today because of just the lack of offense, because we were so enthralled with the fact that this offense opened up so much for the first time in recent history. And it ended up leading to their demise nearly in this one, because this Northwestern defense is a group of real ones.
Well, and Wisconsin, all this is a reminder is they're not on the same level of Ohio State, which is Captain Obvious. You see the numbers there, 23 of 41, 230, a touchdown, but 3 picks for Graham Mertz. What did Heather Dinich just allude to? Justin Fields had an uncharacteristic day for somebody that hasn't had a turnover all year. He had 3 picks in today's game, but Ohio State still beat a good Indiana team. Wisconsin is not good enough to go out and have that effort from Graham Mertz. They're not good enough to be able to turn around and make that difference against Northwestern. It's a little bit of a statement that maybe we've been underestimating Northwestern, and you make a great point about the defensive efficiency.
Right.
But it's also a reminder that maybe Wisconsin, the lack of practice has affected them, or they just weren't good enough.
Yeah, and I think it can be both, right? I think if we see another tune-up game from the Badgers, that kind of puts them back in the conversation of trying to make a run at the Big Ten. But right now, again, understand that they may not necessarily have the explosiveness that Ohio State does, but they're still a dang good football team, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But we are here to kind of keep you rolling through what is going on in Week 12 of the college football season. The College Football Show presented by AT&T 5G. We got to look in here at the warm-ups going down in Bedlam, or at Bedlam, or is it like, what preposition am I supposed to
There's going to be Bedlam!
There it is. That saves me entirely. So let's get ready for this matchup, courtesy of a little montage and Holly Rowe.
They've been doing this thing since 1904.
OU, OSU. This is Bedlam!
A huge game in the state of Oklahoma.
A lot of state pride on the line.
It's the big game of the year.
It's going to be an intense game like it should be.
Okay, here we are. We are getting ready for Bedlam. Would you believe it is the first time that Bedlam has been played at night here in Norman? We've seen night games before in Stillwater, but not here in Norman, so it's about to get crazy in here. 25% capacity. The real storyline in this game is how healthy are both teams. There's a couple of key injuries. Tylan Wallace, Chuba Hubbard were dinged up in their last game. Just saw Tylan. He looks like he's good to go. He is one of the best wide receivers in the country for Oklahoma State. And then for Oklahoma, they are finally getting their ground game going. They've got over 200 yards rushing in their last couple of games. Look for Ramondre Stevenson coming off that 5-game suspension. He's literally hit the ground running for the Sooners. I expect him to have a big, big night tonight. Bedlam, buckle up.
We will buckle up, strap in, all that fun stuff. Get locked in for this here. This is the College Football Show presented by AT&T 5G.
Before we get to Bedlam real quick, getting everybody updated. Cincinnati is beating UCF 36-33. There's a $1:42 left in this game. It looked like Cincinnati had it in hand. UCF got the touchdown, but they weren't able to get the onside kick. Cincinnati driving with it now. So we'll see how this plays out. But 36-33, first and goal for Cincinnati with the ball. We will keep you updated. In the meantime, this game tonight, going to be a good one between two teams that, frankly, have a rivalry. Yeah. But when you look at the record in this rivalry, it obviously sways substantially to Oklahoma.
Yeah, it does. And I think you posed it in a great pre-production question. In what other rivalry are you getting off scot-free as Mike Gundy has after getting your behind whooped as often as you have by Oklahoma? Like, how does that ride for so long?
Well, and you see the graphic there. Oklahoma's won 16 of 17 meetings with both schools were ranked. So even when they're both considered to be pretty good, Oklahoma's better. So, we call this a rivalry, but it feels like, and to that end, this is still a very interesting matchup to me. You know, when we talk about these two teams, and you just heard Holly tell us injuries have been a bit of a concern, but they've also been a concern on the other side for Spencer Rattler. He was a little bit dinged up last week. We were watching the game as it was happening, and his hip looked like it was bothering him. So, this is sort of that moment to see a statement, I think, from Spencer Rattler. How's he look? What's he able to do in this game is going to be what we're all looking for a kid that has phenomenal expectations on him from day one.
Yeah, true freshman, first guy under Lincoln Riley that has the reins from a very young age. And that young age came out at times, right? Like, we had seen some just mistakes made that are characteristic of a cat that just is getting used to the speed of the game or whatever have you. But to your point, again, he really has balled out for the most part on a game-by-game basis. It's something that you come to expect from that team. Speaking of Spencer Rattler and his counterpart on the other side, not at quarterback, but just as the offensive, just what embodies what is supposed to be the offense for their team in Chuba Hubbard. I think when it comes to the expectations of each of those individuals, Spencer Rattler and Chuba Hubbard, has Spencer Rattler exceeded expectations more than Chuba Hubbard has underwhelmed us this season?
See, here's the problem. The expectation, has Spencer Rattler exceeded my expectations? Yes. But are there heightened expectations when you are at Oklahoma, where, frankly, playing quarterback there means you're supposed to be a top 2 Heisman candidate? We just take that for granted.
Number 1 draft.
I mean, that's what we expect every single time. So, to me, though, I think this story is a little bit about Chuba, because we had such high expectations for him as an individual, especially in what we thought was going to be a more dynamic Oklahoma State offense, I think, with him. So maybe I had this unrealistic expectation. I think I expected Spencer Rattler to be great, but I also expected Chuba to be sort of lights out and Oklahoma State to be better as a result of it. So I think I'm going to go on the underperforming Chuba side.
I'll actually go with overperforming for Spencer, because I saw dips in the performance, of course, where Lincoln Riley even had to pull him out of the game against Texas just to kind of recalibrate and make sure his mind was just okay, because it takes a lot to kind of make sure, especially on stages like that your freshman quarterback is good to go, right, in the mind and everything like that. So since then, though, he's rattled off performance after performance that reminds you exactly why he was as highly touted as a high school player as he was. And he has exceeded those expectations, even for a lot of folks that are keeping an eye on that Sooner program every single week. So I'm going to ride with Spencer on that.
And fair or not fair, by the way, I looked it up. And Chuba last year, I should remind everybody, 2,094 yards rushing, a 6.4 yard average, and 21 touchdowns, right? You compare that to where he is this year. He's got 5 touchdowns and a 4.6 yard average, and that's just less than we expected. When you have the greatness he has, that's simply less than we expected, especially for a kid that could have opted out, right? And a kid that could have decided he didn't want to take the hits and just go into the NFL. I give him a lot of credit. Anytime a running back this year decided to come back and play, I think that's a very commendable thing. And there were so many issues in the offseason that were well covered between Chuba and what he wanted to see from Mike Gundy and sort of some of the dumb moves that his coach made. And so I think because of all of those reasons, I had this heightened expectation that Chuba would come out and just be lights out. That's what I want for the kid in that opportunity. You come back and take extra. You know this is as a former running back. If you come back and take extra hits on your body, let it be for a reason. So I want it to be for a reason. Unfortunately, those numbers don't lie.
Yeah, that's just not the position you come back to take an extra year of tread off the tires for, right? Like, that's just not the position you do that, especially as you see, not to go off on a tangent, but just the direction that the NFL is going and devaluing the position at large. But all that to say, to go back to the matchup in a specific regard, number one conference defense efficiency rating for the Oklahoma State Cowboys against the number one rated offensive efficiency.
Offensive efficiency.
We're going to get there, that word out eventually.
This is what happens when you work with me, dude. You work with me long enough, I will teach you not to read and not to speak. It's my gift, really.
Awful.
I will say that's within the Big 12. So some people will laugh about it. But in a world where college football isn't playing particularly good defense, Oklahoma State has.
Yeah.
So, how Spencer Rattler reacts to that, someone that has, to your point, he did get benched earlier this year. I think there's a real opportunity here. Plus, as much as we joked about earlier on where this rivalry stands, let's also be clear about the fact that Oklahoma has won the Big 12 for, 5-6 years in a row? This is the big chance for Oklahoma State to come out and end that. I think that fires these guys up. So knowing what they can accomplish, not for them, just for themselves, but also in stopping Oklahoma becomes an extra factor for them. So in that sense, I want to see them fired up.
It's called Bedlam for a reason. We are bound to see some shenanigans out of this game. It will be one of those things that gets your chest tight for no apparent reason. Even if you aren't affiliated with either one of these fan bases, your chest will get tight watching this game. I guarantee it. But to get to the nuts and bolts of this here segment, pick time. I am rolling with the Sooners because of what they have at the quarterback position. I think they do overcome the number one rated defense efficiency in Oklahoma State, and they end up rolling.
Well, and as Holly Roll just told you, a couple of key injuries look like they may be better for Oklahoma State, but let's see how that goes throughout the course of the game. I'm not comfortable with the injury situation, especially if Chuba is dinged up at all. He has to play well. I don't know that can happen. So for the same reason, I'm taking Oklahoma in this one. So I would love to see it turn out the other way because it's a great story for Oklahoma State, but I feel like Spencer Rattler's got too much for them to handle this year.
I mentioned chests being tight. I imagine the Cincinnati Bearcats are going through something like that. Talking more football, they are playing UCF. And let me tell you, middle of the first quarter is where we're going to pick this thing up. UCF leading already, and Dylan Gabriel finds Marlon Williams in the end zone for 6. And the Knights take a 14-3 lead. Second quarter action now. Cincy's Desmond Ritter, a 29-yard score, a little out route or crossing route. Tight end turns that thing up, and the score is 14-13. Then, later in the second, Desmond Ritter off the zone read, 3-yard score to give the Bearcats a 21-13 lead. And then here comes UCF. Dylan Gabriel to Marlon Williams once again. They take the lead again, 25-22. And then Dylan Gabriel over Desmond Ritter over the top. Since he takes a 29-25 lead, and they currently lead by 3.
Oh, it's final. It's done.
Oh, that is the final.
They win by 3, 36-33.
Thank you for that.
Look at that. All right, speaking of teams trying to get themselves in the playoff, North Alabama, they're not, but BYU is. Zach Wilson fakes a handoff, finds Isaac Rex in the back corner of the end zone. Touchdown BYU. They go up 7-0 early. Zach Wilson, I'm telling you, if you're an NFL fan, just start watching it. It's going to be a top 10 pick in the draft, no doubt. Play action. Just gets it in here. Neil Pawoo in the end zone. They go up 28-0.
Good Lord.
66-14. Really tough one for BYU. Just really struggling to get through that.
App State, Coastal Carolina, the Chanticleers at number 15 in the nation. And first quarter, Coastal Carolina down 7-0. Their first play from scrimmage, and Grayson McCall pump fakes and goes over the top to Isaiah Likely, who reels that thing in, breaks it off for a 75-yard score. Now Coastal Carolina will miss the extra point, so they trail by 1 at that point. Second quarter, in action now, Zach Thomas to Christian Wells at 25-yard score, and back and forth we go. App State up 17-9 at the break. Fourth quarter action now, 1:30 left. Thomas, deep, picked off by DeJordan. Strong muscles his way out of a couple tackles, and then he's rolling. Get up there.
Swiggity swooty. He's coming for that booty.
38-yard pick six. Coastal Carolina pulls off the comeback, 34-23. They remain undefeated at 8-0.
I'm going to make Swiggity swooty. He's coming for that booty, a pick six thing on this show.
That's That's all you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I have no interest in taking that phrase from you. You got that.
You say that now. By the end of the year, you're going to say swiggity at least once. He's Treavor Scales. I'm Jason Fitz. It's a college football show presented by AT&T 5G. And let's get some takeaways here. And, you just mentioned maybe a little bit of lemon booty for Cincinnati, a phrase I picked up from you, as they get a 3-point win over UCF. But I think there was a key moment in this game. And that moment came at the very end. They had 4th and goal from essentially the 2-yard line. And rather than punch it in and try and add extra points, which is what Cincinnati has done a couple of times here, they just let it die. They let it go because you don't want to take any chances something gets screwed up. That's good common football sense. I understand that. But, Trev, that speaks to the fact that this game was tight. And UCF came out to play. It didn't look like Cincinnati was ready for it early on. Cincinnati and BYU have a unique opportunity, and I have to put like a real-world hat on at some point and say, for Cincinnati, they're looking at it. I just wonder for these kids every week if they feel a little bit more pressure, because it's not even just about this moment. It's not about just 2020. It's about the AAC and the fact that they're always close and don't quite get in. I keep looking at that thinking the natural human element is like, my God, we have no wiggle room. And, I've mentioned it to Luke Fickell, the coach of Cincinnati, and his response was, well, most teams don't have wiggle room. But I genuinely believe if you're a 21-year-old kid in that locker room, you know that. And you know the extra pressure that's coming because they are on the cusp of possibly getting into this.
Oh, come on, dog. Like, look, we all know that ESPN is on in the locker rooms that they're chilling in on a day-to-day basis. So they are very well aware of what they're doing on the national scale and the fact that it is being recognized just about everywhere. And with that recognition comes the pressure that you spoke to. So with that, they understand what's going down. Now, granted, I can tell you from a week-to-week basis, it is difficult to kind of pick your head up from the grindstone of game planning and watching film on the specific opponent. There is a rhythm about it and a sort of normalcy to it that gets you locked in and isolated in a sense. But every once in a while, you pop your head up and look around. No, you start to feel it. And it's not to say that you feel it when you walk into the game that Saturday. But as the clock starts to wind down and your chest gets tight, it's one of those things that ends up creeping in your mind as a comeback may be coming from the opposite team.
So I want to go back to something that Heather Dinich said, and you smartly pointed out earlier when we talked to her on the show. There are contingencies, things that would have to be met, but the Pac-12 has at least opened the door to the possibility of their teams within their conference playing a game outside their conference. Now, rule number 1, there would have to be nobody available in the conference to take that game. Rule number 2, you have to step up your testing protocol and match them. And then rule number 3 is the game would have to take place at the Pac-12 stadium. It really raises an interesting question because I think USC and Oregon, 2 teams that are looking for some opportunity to prove that they belong in the college football playoff, they need Cincinnati and BYU, both of those teams. Like BYU can just do whatever they want. Cincinnati needs to find a way to get themselves into this conversation because all 4 of those teams have a benefit from playing each other. Somehow, some way, it's a quality win that wasn't available to you a week ago that is now. They need to powwow, sit down, play kumbaya, get by the campfire, whatever it takes to make sure they make games happen.
I think it particularly holds true for the 2 that aren't in a Power 5 conference in Cincinnati and BYU because we talk about just having a barometer. We talked about how these conferences are now so isolated that they're having to play just within their conference, and that's the only barometer that we have for how good these teams are. If by chance the Pac-12 gets to reach out, Oregon gets to reach out and play a BYU team that's been doorsing people week to week and pulls off and beats them, that actually gives them a little bit more of a cachet on their resume. And so that is the opportunity that you spoke to kind of build things up for them.
The insiders I've talked to have all made it clear BYU's making phone calls, and Cincinnati is trying to make phone calls. The question is, are USC and Oregon going to want to take those phone calls? We'll find out a lot about how they feel about their football programs because you're putting yourself on the line on what could end up being an embarrassing loss. But you're also out there saying, hey, I want to get that cred. I want to get that win. So it'll be interesting to see. We'll see where it plays out. We got more football to catch you up on as we'll get you caught up on LSU taking on Arkansas, the defending national champions. That's about all LSU can say that's positive about this season, at least so far. Felipe Franks faking the handoff, makes the defender miss, and then leaps. Look at this. He says, Superman, da-da-da, and crosses the plane. Touchdown right there. Absolutely beautiful. 17-14 lead for Arkansas as a result of the go-go gadget arms move there Might have been Go-Go Gadget legs, too. All of it. Felipe can flex all he wants with that move. Let's pick it up in the fourth quarter. Just over 4 minutes left. TJ Finley with all kinds of time. He's back there. He reads a book. And then finds Jure Jenkins for the 13-yard touchdown. LSU takes the lead 27-24. Arkansas is going for the tie. A.J. Reed's 44-yard field goal attempt. Blocked. No good. LSU, you get the win in a season that's been forgettable. You can say you're still defending champions, and you beat Arkansas. I'm just saying.
Forgettable seasons. Welcome in Penn State to the conversation. They were taking on Iowa, and Kayvon Lee goes in from 6 yards out to give Penn State the lead, but here come the Hawkeyes. 14:35 left in the half, and Tyler Goodson gets around the edge for the 10-yard score. Then Mekhi Sargent, quick touchdown, his second of the game, and the Hawkeyes would extend their lead 24-7. Into the third quarter now. Sean Clifford, Jahan Dotson on the receiving end, gets behind the coverage, 68 yards to the crib, but Iowa still up by 10 after the extra point. Now 2:10 remaining. The last chance for the Nittany Lions. Sean Clifford gets picked off. Davion Nixon, 71-yard return to the crib.
That is a big boy touchdown.
Puts up Iowa 41-21. They would go on to win. As we wrap up this highlight, I gotta say, look, there's just so much to talk about with regards to Penn State, but we can open up this conversation at large.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, liftoff.
Trevor, do you find yourself like midweek just thinking, gosh, what's it going to be this week for Fitz's 5?
Never. I've never thought that in the middle of a week.
All right, you know what? We're going to have a little bit of fun in the best way possible. Like, sometimes misery loves company.
Yes.
So we usually spend this time giving you the top 5 this and the top 5 that. This week, we're going to give you the top 5 most disappointing teams this season, because let's face it, a lot of fans have been let down, right? So let's get started with the top 5 teams that have let their fan base down the most. I'm going to start with a little bit of home cooking here, as I'm going to take it number 5, Tennessee coming in. Now, the Vols started, in the very beginning, people were trying to get hot on the Vols. And as you know, 20 years in Nashville. I mean, I'd listen to my buddy Ramon Foster tell me they were going to win 9 games. Has not happened. Now, Jeremy Pruitt, head coach. I've got Vols fans in my mentions telling me that Pruitt is worse than Butch Jones. All right, that shows you where things have gone. All right, at number 4 on this list, and this is where it gets tough because there's a lot of bad football teams. But at number 4, they get a little benefit of the doubt because we know that they have so much changeover in their roster. But come on. LSU is dreadful. Like, they're awful. They're an abomination. It's an embarrassment. By the end of the year, LSU fans are going to be questioning Ed O. That's just the way it works down there. So they come in at number 4. At number 3, maybe partially recency bias here, but come on, man. Nebraska begged to get back in. Nebraska insisted, we'll go play in another conference if we don't get to play football. That means you have to actually play on Saturdays. Oh, my God. Nebraska is absolutely dreadful at this point. So now we get to the top 2. The top 2 in the Legion of Terrible. And number 2 is Penn State and the Nittany Lions, mostly here because I actually had expectations for Penn State. I thought, for all they've graduated, I still think they reloaded. Thought James Franklin was going to be able to at least make them competitive. That hasn't happened. So I'm disappointed in Penn State because they had potential. But at number 1, and we know this all the way down, like when you stand at the top of the podium to get your gold medal, Harbaugh, stay consistent. Just wear your khaki pants as you get the gold medal for disappointing your fan base more than anybody else in all of college football. So those are my top 5.
Okay, and that's a fair assessment. I kind of interpreted this question as, who am I most disappointed in, right? Like, who exactly did not live up to expectations. So in the converse of your list, I'm actually going to put Michigan at 5 because I didn't expect too much from Michigan. I was like, we'll see exactly what Jim Harbaugh will do, but where are my expectations supposed to be for that brother, given the fact that he hasn't won a rivalry game in quite some time? In at 4, I just want y'all to stop hyping them up. Texas, right? Because, again, we need to make sure that we understand they are not back. They are just fine, and we need to be okay with that.
They've won a couple of games lately.
Which is why they aren't at 5, right? That's pretty much what that is. Number 3, right ahead of them, their conference mate OU, because I think that we expected a level of offensive production that is still there for the most part. Spencer Rattler, of course, being the freshman quarterback that he is, has to have some leeway given to him. But that defense just looked terrible, even beyond what we expect from OU. 2. At 2, I'm agreeing with you in that Penn State should be pretty high up there. James Franklin getting off to the start that he has is just, it boggles the mind. Ain't no way you can tell me that this would have made sense preseason. At number 1, this is purely fan base vote.
Yes,
the Dogs.
Yes,
I requested them to be put in this list just so I can make this delineation. I need them in the top spot because I'm embarrassed by them. Not even because they've lost like just super bad games. They have not looked anywhere near the level that I had at least hoped.
We like to peel behind the curtain on this show and give everybody a little taste of what's reality, right? Like, so we're in the conference room today getting ready, and we didn't tell each other our list. But I was a little stunned when we were putting together the list of teams overall. And Treavor says,
yes.
He says, you know what? We need to add Georgia to the list. And now I'm watching you put it together, and the whole time in my mind I'm thinking, where's Georgia? Where's Georgia? That, my friend, is the way to go. Go Dogs! Consistent as ever. Georgia at the top of the list. I'm sure you'll get some Twitter mentions out of that.
Come on at me. But don't really. This is delivered by Pizza Hut. Treavor Scales, Jason Fitz here with you on the College Football Show. And look here. We just going to lean into the bad. Just like when I couldn't speak English earlier and we leaned into the bad, we're going to continue leaning into the bad with bruh. We are getting jokes off at the expense of people that may have made some plays that weren't the greatest of plays. So we can fire this thing on up whenever we're ready. Stephen F. Austin, defensive end, my man Ahmad Murray, at the end of this here play, flop of quite possibly the season. I'm not.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. That's NBA worthy.
That is beyond NBA worthy. This might be like in the Premier League. Yeah, 5'4", right there in front of you.
I think you have to say Premier League fancier when you reference it, but I'm with you on that one.
Fair enough. Eastern Carolina return man. Here, Tyler Snead, 95 yards. Right?
Look at this. Little man, he's like, he has scrawny little legs running that fast out.
Rolling.
What are we running this for?
Crib. Just wait for it. Wait for it. Yakum. Oh. Right over. He tried to pull off the Lambo.
Like, who you think you're even jumping into there? Like, there
were so many gross miscalculations. I don't know what he expected to happen outside of that. It's just... Buddy.
You know he planned that before the game started, too.
Right, he eyed that up and was like, we going to do this. And I don't know if he figured out what the end of that was going to be. Michael Penix Jr. making an appearance here. His 3rd touchdown of the day. Great. We're loving that. And I don't know what this is, Fitz. I tried to figure it out.
Oh, and did they jump up and down at the end? Like, yeah, are they forming a boy band with, like, interpretive dance things?
You know more about boy bands than I ever would.
That is probably a fair point.
I have no idea. I don't even have a joke. I just don't know what happened. Anyways, Northwestern defensive end J.R. Pace. And this is the petty part of the segment. The man's just snatching towels for no apparent reason.
Now, as a person that actually really respects free stuff, like, I get that. Like, there's a free towel there. Like, you just taking a towel.
That's somebody else's towel.
Well, I mean, all the more reason to take it.
No.
You better watch it if you ever bring a towel on set.
Funny.
I mean, might have a cool brand on it or something. Like, it's.
What about that says I need to take it when it's on somebody?
Oh, he took another one. He took 2 towels.
No, just awful. Oregon offensive lineman gets absolutely smoked on that turnover. A whole convoy for the UCLA defense rolling in there.
Does that count as a pancake block?
Yeah, it's definitely a knockdown. It's definitely a knockdown.
And by the way, he was trying to steal dude's hand warmer.
He was trying to tackle him, Fitz.
He's like, oh my God, that's a free hand warmer.
That's messed up.
All right, let's take a look at our top performer. AT&T 5G top performer today, Ty Freifogel. Give me a big old heaping helping of some Freifogel. 7 catches, 218 yards, 3 touchdowns. I have been saying all year, can Ohio State be exposed? Well, they may have won the game today, but Ty Freifogel won the battle individually in this game as he absolutely embarrassed Ohio State. He is, without question, our AT&T 5G top performer of the day.
Treavor Scales, Jason Fitz here with you on the College Football Show presented by AT&T 5G. And this here is just like a circus every weekend. We just sit around, watch college football. We have the homies come through and chat it up with us. And one of the homies that has now made his 3rd appearance, this is his 3rd appearance on the show, Jordan Cornett, man that runs ACC Network's The Huddle, 10 a.m. to noon Eastern. Make sure you check that out. But it looks like Fitz wants to.
We got to be very clear, though.
No, go ahead.
When you host Saturday Night Live like 6 times, you get a jacket, right, on the 6th one.
True.
Right, so.
True.
It comes back to, like, if I had, like, a slew of towels that I'd stolen during the game, I could give, like, Jordan a free towel for appearance number 3. But no, we don't have any. any of that.
You would need a rack of towels to cover all of this. Right here. Look, I come in here. It's not like Saturday Night Live. I'm not invited on a show. I force my way in here to remind you guys that this is a week that's going to go by where you're not going to watch Notre Dame play football, where you're not going to watch Clemson play football. But hello, we the ACC, we're over here. We're not going anywhere. We're here to stay. College Football Playoff Committee, don't forget about us. Treavor Scales, Jason Fitz, don't forget about us. Just like I hope you don't forget about what you saw today in the Big Ten. Indiana football hanging almost 500 yards of offense on Ohio State. Wisconsin, bye-bye. More room for the ACC. I'm here to let y'all know.
Two important things. Number one, Jordan usually comes in very buttoned up. Today, the tie disheveled.
Man, let loose a little bit.
It looks like it's been a day. Number two,
for us to the ACC.
Last time I checked, where did your wife go to college?
Yeah, I don't take great joy in the fact that they lost this game. But
Indiana, for anyone that doesn't know.
Indiana, yes. She's a big-time Hoosier. Who knew that they had a football program? Her 4 years of college, she never went to one football game. Diehard sports fan. Went to all the basketball games. But this year in 2020, anything goes. Indiana football is at the top of her priorities these days.
I take offense to that because when I told people where I went to school, they asked if they had a football program too. Like, that's disrespectful. You can't be just taking shots at programs like that, George.
You went to
Harvard and nobody else did.
That was just your subtle flex of getting in that you went to Harvard.
Because I didn't name the school. Y'all sit here and name the school for me. That's the beautiful thing about it. Now, okay, with regards to the ACC specifically, I don't think that anybody forgets the fact that they are still rolling off dominant wins the way that they are. Yeah. But there is a question now that we're kind of creeping up on is their resume going to be long enough if games continue to be shut down? How exactly do we rationalize that aspect of it?
Treavor, for as smart as you are, my man, I mean, you're missing the mark on this one. Have you heard Brian Kelly talk last week? This team in Notre Dame has already played a schedule that's going to be longer than the Big Tens, has already played a schedule that's going to be longer than maybe even the SECs, has already played a schedule that's longer than Pac-12s. So what's up for debate? I mean, you could shut this thing down right now. We really hope it doesn't. We hope everybody can continue to play football safely here. But if they did, you've already got a body of work. Notre Dame has one of the best wins of the college football season. They've already played enough games to have an ample sample size to decide that this team belongs in this thing. What more do you want from the ACC? I mean, 92% of their games have been played this year. They're doing everything the right way. Reward these teams. You know right now that Clemson and Notre Dame are two of the best teams in this whole thing. What are we doing?
Okay, we got to let you go, but one-word answer. You get a one-word answer to this. You got to bet Jimmy Patera, our boss, the CEO, you got to bet Jimmy's house on Notre Dame versus Ohio State. How you betting?
Well, Jimmy's probably got 6 or 7 houses, so I don't feel bad if he loses one of them on this one. Notre Dame.
Oh, get out of here with that. Get out of here with that mess. Jordan Cornette, you can check him out on the ACC Network all day. Button that tie up. Come in here acting like you belong. Come on. All right, Jordan, we appreciate your time, my friend.
You guys are the best.
All right, should we get into some...
College football show continues. Holy cow is what we're on now. We're celebrating the best of the best. We kind of teased you with a little bit of the jokes that we got off before, had a nice little hilarious conversation, and now we get into the very best of the day. We begin things with Tulsa.
Yeah, this is Tulsa quarterback Davis Brin. He finds one Carlos Santana. And I'm not supposed to make a Santana joke like this was so smooth in the back of the end zone. 37-yard touchdown pass as time expires, forces overtime, 21-21. But this is, which is great. I mean, this is the third time this season that they've had some sort of a miraculous, incredible ending to a game. But in double overtime, right here, Zaven Collins. I want you to see the pick, but then I want you to see the run. Look at this. My man is 6'4", 260. And he picks off the pass, takes it 96 yards to the house.
He's separating from the group.
6'4", 260, outrunning everybody. When you have a miraculous ending and you have somebody 6'4", 260 that runs his way into the first round of the draft, you get double moves, the big 100 coming out on that.
I'm not mad at it. We here to celebrate the big fellas around here. Like, I'm not against that rating whatsoever. I can get with that, actually.
Thank you so much.
Vandy, your favorite team of all time.
I do love Derek Mason, nice guy.
Will Shepherd goes up against this bad boy. And I want to make sure that we understand that this man went over the back, showed him the ball in his face mask, and then just ripped it from him, as well as his soul on the way down. simultaneous, possession goes to the offensive player or whatever. But 77, I think it's a decent catch. I'm not mad at it. Was for a first down, was not for points. So I'm here to celebrate it about slightly above average.
Okay. I mean, you're usually a softer judge on this. I'll try a touchdown grab here. See what you think of this one. Second quarter, Logan Bonner throws it up to Jonathan Adams Jr. Fights off the defender, gets the touchdown pass while he's being dragged to the ground. And what? I like this one. Yeah, like you get to scream at one.
Yes.
And then afterwards, you get to talk all your smack, because if he drags you to the ground like that, you still have the body control to get it and make sure that he traps the ball in with two hands. I feel good about that one. So I'm going to give this a pretty good score for me. I give this an 83.
And I understand that you're the resident hater around here, but I actually had a point of contention in that I think he might have got a little shove across, like the MJ style, like using the defender's momentum to go on past him. He assisted with that. I'm not saying
I'm going to stay out of your Menchie's today. You just said that MJ cheated on the most famous shot of his career.
I was literally getting ready to say, I ain't saying MJ did anything wrong. I'm just saying let's all be real, recognize that the hand was on the hip. But
so you're a LeBron guy. That's what you just told us. Go ahead.
I am. Come on with it then. Next play, Jonathan Adams Jr. making a second appearance. And this one here didn't push off on anybody. Couldn't nobody do anything against him. Goes up top, falling backwards. We actually started the show with this here play. Goes up against this one.
Gloves.
30-yard. Don't. Oh, Jesus. Every time with you.
I mean, look at it. The ball's sticking to the hand. It is stuck to his hand.
Stop.
This is so the gloves.
Stop it right now. Again, I just want you one time to go out there and catch one pass. Because you started hating so hard, 90.
Oh, you're going to give that a 90. That's okay.
So hard.
Okay, fine. While we're judging, I think 90 was a little bit gracious, but that's fine. We'll keep judging some catches here. Let's just under a minute left in the half. Kyle Trask to Trayvon Grimes. Look at that jump. Florida goes up 17-10 with this one, but look at it. He comes back, gets the ball. I mean, it's good. It's good. Yeah, I appreciate wide receivers that can high point the football. Yes. I appreciate that against the Vandy team that's won how many games this year? So, just saying, I gave this a 74.
You are.
Yeah. Well, ruthless. I also thought that DeAndre Hopkins' catch was overrated. So keep going.
Whoa.
Yeah. I'm just throwing all sorts of shade. That's just what I'm doing.
Boy, you lucky we can't talk about no NFL stuff on here. No. This man created a Jordan ad in a play, and you gonna sit here and hate on that?
I mean, it was okay.
Next play. I'm not doing this with him. I'm not doing this with him. Todd Freifogel. Good. I'm so mad at you right now. I'm disgusted with you. Y'all can watch, y'all can see the play that's going out in front of you. 56-yard score from Todd Freifogel.
Was there a little push there? Was there a little push on that?
I couldn't tell you. I haven't watched the play because I'm just so distraught by what you just said.
Well, now you got to score it.
83. Just so mad.
That was a better throw than it was 83. A catch. 83. Jesus, I'm just saying, your body's going one way, you heave the ball up like that. All right, let's keep going. Trevor's not going to speak to me the rest of the day. Look at this. 6 minutes left in the first half. Oregon defensive back Veron McKinley III hits the fumble away. Like the fact that he scoops it on the ground and then picks it up, takes it in for a 35-yard return. Look, the fact that he goes bowling and then gets it, I mean, how many times do we see somebody awkwardly not be able to pick that ball up? He slaps it to himself, still gets it, and then keeps running it in. Plus, let's just be honest, he looked good in those jerseys. There's just no two ways about it. That factors into the overall score. I
think both jerseys, that's the jersey matchup of the day, no? The classic Bruins jerseys with the gold and
the Bruins ones were okay, but the Oregon ones and that.
Oh, for sure.
Fire.
They are never coming.
All in all, I got to give this thing a score. So
go ahead.
I give it a high score because he rolled the ball to himself. That's difficult to do. 90.
Oh.
90.
I didn't expect
I'm tougher on wide receivers. That's what I'm learning today. I'm easy on everybody else.
He has he does not like anybody that's taller than him. That's basically what it boils.
Which is the entire world. I'm 5'9" and a quarter.
I'm right there with you. Sub 6 foot game. It is what it is. Jaleel Billingsley going over the top here for Bama. 34-yard gain. Look, leaving your feet. I always just get nervous when cats do that, man. I was always taught when I play don't do that. Just keep your feet on the ground at all times. Impressive play nonetheless. Bama rolls, as we all know. 80. Solid play. I'm not against it.
All right.
I'm not against it.
That was good.
We continue on with the College Football Show presented by AT&T 5G. And why don't we check in on what you have at your disposal tonight to watch? We going down right now. Tennessee and Auburn. Vols with the 10-point lead there. Bedlam, Oklahoma State. Sooners with a 7-0 lead there. My Dogs down to Mississippi State 3-0 at home. And Liberty taking on NC State. About midway through the first quarter, scoreless there. And the last game of note, USC taking on Utah. And who better than to welcome into the College Football Show? One Mark Sanchez, who joins us. Our USC resident, insider, basically, because my man just has everything you could ever possibly want to know about the Trojan program. But beyond that, we bring him in to talk about plenty of other things that have gone down in Week 12 in the college football season. First things first, want to get an understanding for the Pac-12's opening up to non-conference play. How does that help out the likes of Oregon and USC?
Well, it's huge for Oregon and USC. And before we get into that, I want everybody to know I was invited on the show, unlike Jordan.
Shots fired!
No, I saw him in the hallway. We were joking about it.
I love it.
But I'm not going to just go homer on my team here with the Trojans like he does with Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm. Yes!
I couldn't listen anymore. Jeez Louise.
Go.
Notre Dame. But, yeah, this is huge for the Pac-12. I mean, listen, they started so late. They need all the help they can get. Essentially, one of these teams has to go undefeated in conference play. And if those conference games don't work out, they need to play somebody. They need games on their resume. That's just the way it is. It's hard for the Pac-12 to get any kind of respect all the way out east here, but that's okay. So whatever you got to do to get games played, and as long as the players are safe and healthy, that's paramount. But if you can make that happen, get games on your schedule, as many as you can.
So I'm going to make you the AD for a second, and I'm going to have you field a phone call from BYU and Cincinnati both. How likely, knowing how good those two teams are, yes, you have an opportunity, but you're also taking leverage risks. You might get your butt kicked. Are you taking those games?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to look real bad if you don't, so you're forced into it, right? The only out would be some sort of protocol that you guys can't agree on. I think that would be the only way to avoid one of those games. But, yeah, that means you're going to have to take some risk with two teams that you just brought up that could easily, potentially win the entire Pac-12 themselves. So those are risks that they're going to have to take.
The game that we saw between Indiana and Ohio State today was one of great excitement. I think we all knew that Indiana had something to show, but I think they even they exceeded even those expectations. What did you take away from that matchup more? That Ohio State could win at any point, or that Indiana is something not to fool with?
Well, I know there's no moral victories, and Tom Allen doesn't want to hear about moral victories. You saw that passionate speech after the game. He was proud of his team. It was bittersweet because they hung with one of the best teams, obviously in the Big Ten, but in the country. And they forced Justin Fields into, an uncharacteristic performance. 3 turnovers by him. I mean, that just doesn't happen. And then they got an interception before halftime and then gave it up right as they were going into score. That was really the turning point that opened up the lead. It looked like Ohio State was going to run away with it, and they still came back. The other takeaway is Penix and Freifogel. Oh, my God. These guys have an incredible connection. That is fun to watch from those two. But, they played with a lot of heart. They played with a lot of guts. They had them on the ropes. That might be the way you have to get after Ohio State. That might be the blueprint to beat them. I just don't know if anybody else in the Big Ten can do that.
If Indiana can continue to play this season the way they have, can they build something in your mind that is sustainable as a football program at this level?
Well, it's going to be tough because they're always going to have to beat this team, Ohio State, that's built like an SEC team, right? If their quarterback, if Justin Fields doesn't have those turnovers today, they could potentially run him out of the stadium, right? Like they looked like they were going to do multiple times. It just looked like they took their foot off the gas a little bit or kind of shot themselves in the foot. So they're always going to have to contend with Ryan Day as long as he sticks around.
Mark Sanchez joining us here. You can catch him all day long on ABC, covering all the college football action going down around the country. We appreciate him joining us here on the College Football Show, presented by AT&T 5G, bro.
And being invited. It's important to note he was invited.
Yes, a polite guest here. We appreciate that.
Thanks, Mark.
This is the College Football Show presented by AT&T 5G. Treavor Scales, Jason Fitz holding you down. And as we wrap this thing on up, we got to give you some things of note that happened before we get up out of here. We take a look in on the Big 12. Kansas State, Iowa State. A game that was in large part a behind whooping from the Cyclones. Bryce Purdy fakes a handoff, drops a dime to Joe Skate.
No, Bryce Purdy?
No, we ain't doing that. You like puns. I am not necessarily a fan. Iowa State with the ball on the Kansas State 33, and Breece Hall takes a handoff. Left side finds an opening, and Iowa State would extend their lead to 28-0. One more. Breece Hall burst right on through, 21-yard score. They extend their lead to 35-0 in the first half. They would tack on 10 more before things went final.
Attack of the Cyclones. All right, I also love tweets where everybody's going at everybody. Illinois reminding the world, look at this. Illinois athletics, not even Illinois football. The Illini athletics department tweets out, good game, Nebraska. Thanks for bringing back Big Ten football. As a little bit of a homage, as they say, to Scott Frost, reminding everybody that Scott Frost was the one that was angry about Nebraska not getting to play and was insistent they'd play somewhere else if they could. Well, they didn't play at all today. So Illinois reminded them, I'm here for Twitter war beef between different athletics departments.
Yeah, hey, turn me up, Big Ten, because y'all just got all the jokes, and I'm here for it. Also, we had questions about the Ohio State defense earlier. We don't have any questions about the recruiting ability that they have as a program. Quinn Ewers commits to Ohio State after decommitting from Texas as a Texas Cat. #1 overall recruit in the 2022 ESPN 300 rankings, and they just continue to rack up top recruiting class after top recruiting class as the Buckeyes.
Third straight year the Buckeyes have had the #1 recruit in the country decide to go there. And by the way, Ryan Day has managed to keep sustaining a program that many had questions about what it would look like post-Urban. Looks like it's a brand new day.
No. Mark Sanchez, I'm leaving that one. I'm letting that one sit. I'm letting it sit. Mark Sanchez mentioned that Ohio State has like an SEC caliber level of talent that just continues to grow as they continue to bring in some top level talent from across the nation. Jason Fitz just so giddy with himself. And you can see more of him and his terrible puns all day long, and it begins at 8:30 Eastern in the morning on all these here apps that you have seen us on today with countdown to game day, 8:30 a.m. Eastern. We got to 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern with the College Football Show presented by AT&T 5G, and then it all wraps up with the wrap-up. Myself, Christine Williamson, and Gary Streisky here with you 11 to 11:30 Eastern. It's a lot of fun. You should come get some of said fun. It would be great. So, yeah. Thanks for kicking it with us on week 12. You have any closing puns, Fitz?
No.
Good. Yes. I'm so glad. This has been the College Football Show presented by AT&T 5G.